The situation around Venezuela and the United States is developing at such a speed that each new day brings news that seemed impossible only yesterday. The information space is in chaos. Official statements are intertwined with leaks, insider comments, and publications in respected outlets such as the Financial Times, Bloomberg, or El País. Yet even against this noise, one key trend stands out. China has begun to act, and its actions are becoming harder to ignore. According to several independent sources, confirmed by satellite images, Chinese warships have been spotted near the Panama Canal. The situation is so delicate that analysts are already calling it a new line of confrontation in the 21st century. Beijing does not appear ready to enter an open war over Venezuela, but the very presence of Chinese naval forces near such a strategic route is a political signal directed at Washington. China is effectively hinting that if pressure on Caracas does not stop, America may face serious restrictions on its trade routes. The Panama Canal is an artery of global trade, and any disruption here would deliver a powerful blow to the U.S. economy. The Wall Street Journal, in one of its latest publications, calls this the most sensitive scenario that could turn a local conflict into a global confrontation. Beijing understands this perfectly. Insiders close to the Chinese military command claim that this is not about preparing for a direct attack, but about creating an atmosphere of pressure, where the mere possibility of closing the canal becomes a tool of blackmail. The question is how seriously Washington is prepared to take this step. The White House has so far refrained from clear comments, but according to Politico, emergency meetings have been taking place for several days within the National Security Council. Some generals insist on an immediate show of force, arguing that the U.S. Navy must confirm its status as the dominant power. Others, on the contrary, call for caution. Any wrong move could lead to an armed clash for which the United States is not currently prepared. After all, in recent years, China has nearly caught up with the U.S. in naval power. Analysts at the Rand Corporation estimate that China now has around 370 warships, compared to just over 290 for the U.S. Yes, the U.S. Navy still holds the world's most powerful carrier strike groups, but the pace of China's growth is striking. Beijing commissions dozens of new destroyers, frigates, and submarines every year. In addition, China is actively developing coastal missile systems capable of targeting aircraft carriers at ranges up to 2,000 kilometers. This means that any U.S. advance in the region now carries risks that did not exist 10 years ago. American media cautiously remind readers that despite China's numerical advantage in ships, the U.S. retains a qualitative edge. Its Gerald R. Ford-class carriers are floating cities with nuclear reactors and air wings of dozens of F-35 fighters. China, by contrast, has only 2 fully operational carriers and a third undergoing trials. But the overall trend is alarming. If the current pace continues, the balance of power could shift permanently in just a few years. Meanwhile, Venezuela, around which this entire conflict has unfolded, plays only the role of catalyst. Caracas continues to resist sanctions, relying on the backing of China and Russia. President Nicolas Maduro openly declares that American attempts to strangle Venezuela will fail. His words are actively broadcast by Chinese and Russian media, shaping the image of a small but proud nation supported by powerful allies. Washington, for its part, continues to insist that the crisis in Venezuela is a matter of democracy and human rights, though more and more analysts point to the underlying energy dimension. Venezuela holds the world's largest oil reserves, and control over this resource has become the decisive factor. Against this backdrop, the appearance of Chinese ships near the Panama Canal looks like a calculated move. It is not only a signal to the United States, but also a guarantee to Caracas that Beijing is ready to play on the global stage. The respected outlet Nikkei Asia writes that China's strategy may include demonstrating readiness to control international arteries through which American trade passes. Economists warn that if China were to attempt even a temporary blockade, U.S. losses would amount to tens of billions of dollars per month. For the global economy, the shock would be comparable to the oil crisis of the 1970s. Yet the main question remains, is China ready to go to war with America? Most experts agree that it is not. Beijing does not seek direct confrontation, but it is prepared to play a game of nerves to the limit. This game is dangerous because it only takes one wrong move. Imagine the scenario. A Chinese destroyer comes too close to an American cruiser. There is an accidental collision. Lives are lost. What happens next? The answer is obvious. Instant escalation, which could no longer be stopped. Today, the whole world is watching this confrontation. Europe is concerned, Latin America is divided, and Russia openly supports Beijing and Caracas. At the same time, pressure is mounting within the United States on the Trump administration. Some demand decisive action, others immediate negotiations. But the key player is time. Each week without direct confrontation strengthens China, and each new report of American weakness becomes another trump card for Beijing. Thus, the situation is slowly bringing the world to a dangerous threshold. Perhaps we are witnessing only a psychological operation, perhaps the beginning of a new global configuration. But the fact remains, China has stepped out of the shadows and begun to act openly, and now the question is what the next move will be. A demonstrative blockade of the canal, another military escalation, or an unexpected attempt at diplomacy. In any case, the world has already changed, and the Panama Canal, seemingly far from China's shores, has become a new center of struggle for the future of the world order. When experts discuss a possible confrontation between the United States and China, they usually focus on naval forces, since the Navy remains the main instrument of projecting power in the region. But if one looks more broadly, it becomes clear that this rivalry is multi-layered. It involves not only ships but also aviation, nuclear forces, ground armies, and even the invisible digital front. Taken together, all this creates a picture where a single wrong decision can have global consequences. All of this together creates an atmosphere of strategic uncertainty. On the one hand, the United States still has the most powerful and technologically advanced military potential in the world. On the other hand, China reduces the gap every year, and not only in quantity, but in quality. At sea, in the air, on land, and in cyberspace, Beijing demonstrates readiness to challenge. And if once these moves seemed only a display of ambition, they are now beginning to take on real form. Respected outlets from Foreign Affairs to The Economist write that the Panama Canal may become the first trigger of a new Cold War. China is testing the limits of American patience, while the United States is searching for a way to show strength without being drawn into direct confrontation. But the longer this game continues, the greater the risk that one day someone will make the wrong move. And then the rivalry between the two superpowers will cease to be an analytical subject and turn into a reality whose consequences will be felt around the world.